And we are live. Yes,
We are
indeed.
liver than live, okay?
I know.
That
World premiere
intro,
of our new intro video. What do you think?
I absolutely love it. I was back here bopping.
I know, right?
It was very good. You did amazing.
I
Thank you for that. That was
I did, and I can't take any credit for it. I just gave a very talented editor the media, and they put it all together. So
thank
it
you.
wasn't. I can't take any credit for it.
Well,
But yes, I wanted it to be. I wanted to like level it up for season three. Like
hey,
season two, we came in. We had Angie Jones, our first guest on the show. I'm like,
yes,
what are we gonna do for season three? And it's the intro or
I
the
love it.
world premiere of our intro video. So that's definitely what it is.
Fantastic. I am so happy to see it. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy
Yes.
to be back here doing what we do, talking about our
Yeah.
books. I am very excited that we're back.
Back in the studio. The vibes are good. I mean, it's been a great summer. We had a break,
Yes,
but here we are back, flipping through books, hacking on keyboards, getting the code done. I mean, I'm on my Kindle once again.
that's
I
okay.
didn't, yeah, I don't have the paper version, but
I'm
you know what I
bothing.
mean.
I'm doing both because I
Okay,
read them in different places in the house. So
exactly,
I'm all over
exactly.
the place.
Yeah, gotta be multimodal. That's what I'll
That's
call it.
me. That's me.
Yeah,
And then I'm at my best when I can use different modalities to consume and learn because not everything tracks in just one mode.
that's
Sometimes you
correct.
need something different in a different format to get what you need to get out of whatever you're
Yes.
experiencing at the moment. So yeah, you're speaking my language.
Yes, indeed. Like I love it when there's an audiobook and the print mode. So then I can listen while I'm reading. It's just like it's like double immersion of
It
the information,
is.
you know.
So, fun fact, if you are reading slash list, well, reading in the
Hmm.
O'Reilly app, there is a feature where it will read the book to you.
Nice.
So when I'm just walking around the kitchen, I have my headphones on and it's reading through the text. It is
Hmm.
definitely a game changer. Um, Now, of course, when it gets to a lot of code and stuff, you're like, no, stop, stop, stop. I don't need
Right.
all that. But other than that, again, it's a great way to consume information.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah. That's why I like doing my podcast like that as well.
Yeah.
Just always getting that information in.
So
Cool,
what
cool.
brings us
Well,
here today? What are we
what
doing in
brings us
season
here today?
3?
Yes, indeed. Let's get right into it. We are reading a new book, the new book, Hands on Python for DevOps by Anchor Roy. There's the
Ta-da.
cover, beautifully displayed on screen. So yeah, in this particular book, I think there's like 5 or 6 sections, maybe,
I think it's
and something like that. I can't
let's
remember. Maybe I have to pull up
it's
the table of
on the book.
contents.
It's 3 sections. Chapter
Three,
1
okay,
through
3 sections.
4, chapter 5 through 9. Part 3 is chapter 10 through 13.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna break it down. This first episode, I guess, is kind of a collection because we're doing a full section, chapters 1 through 4, and then we're
Yes.
going to break it down into a couple sections as we go forward. But before we get into the meat of the material, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's joining us live on
Hey,
LinkedIn,
everybody.
everybody that's joining us live from YouTube. If you are joining us live, drop in the comments where you're joining us from. One of the things that is like unique about this particular podcast and keeps us hype is we want you to be a part of the conversation.
Yes.
So if you're joining us, if you're reading the book along with us, drop that in the comments. Let us know what questions you have. Let us know what you might have stumbled across or figured out or some insights that you have, and we'll be happy to shout you out on the show in real time.
In real
Um,
time.
and if you're watching us after the fact, thank you too for streaming the audio or video of this show. We
Yes,
love you
future
too.
me
Thank you.
appreciate you. Future Mike appreciates you for listening and hanging in with us here.
Exactly. So yeah, with that said, let's get right into it.
Sounds good.
Hands-on Python for DevOps. One of the things that I appreciated about this particular book, particularly coming off of our last book, which was
Programming.
program AWS Lambda, which
Yeah.
we went into it thinking that it was going to be a target, a focus on Lambda. But instead, it was really about Java and how you can run Java on Lambda. So I appreciated that this book said out of the gate, straight up, it's like, hey, this book is about DevOps and Python. And I mean, knowing that these are both broad topics, I didn't expect this to be a tome, like volumes
It
on each
isn't,
topics. Yeah. It hits the high points. And it's like, hey,
for
you
sure.
need to know this, and this about DevOps. You got it? Okay, good. Let's move on to Python. And it just blazes right through to the meat. Is like you're getting code by, I think chapter 2 they do a little bit of code.
Yes, but chapter 3
like,
is definitely,
yeah, you're getting your hands dirty by chapter 3, which I
yes.
really appreciated. Well, I'll pause there and give you a chance to jump in if you had any thoughts on the intro, but whatever, before we get to chapter 1.
Well, yeah, the first 2 chapters definitely delved into DevOps in its language, what it's for. It definitely covered, the need for automation, the need for monitoring and metrics, and knowing where you are and being able to figure out and troubleshoot any issues, alerting. They mentioned postmortems. I remember doing those many years ago. Usually they're not the best thing, depending, because they can be very telling and they can induce stress. But what we found out, especially when we read the DevOps handbook, that those moments are the best moments because they're teachable moments. And when you work in an environment that's very safe and allows for that type of interaction, it's literally you're walking out with this newfound confidence of, I learned something. This was definitely a teachable moment. I guess the first chapter was just trying to lay the groundwork for DevOps. And then chapter 2 started the Python conversation. So it said, let's get all of the theory out of the way and let's get into it. And it did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, and I had a couple thoughts for chapter 1. Basically, automate all the things. I mean, that's what DevOps practitioners, that's their Zen state, for lack of a better word. That they want everything to be like self-service or on demand, and automated. And one of the quotes that I pulled from chapter 1 was, an automated task does the job perfectly every time if you set it correctly just once. So if there's something you got to do over and over and over again, script that bad boy up. Do something where you could just call that function, call that operation, and it does it for you every time. And then they went into the story of John, this kind of mythical guy who accidentally became a DevOps engineer. And for me, that was very close to home, because every time I go into a new role or a new environment, and I learn the processes of, oh, this is how we do our job, this is the way that we work or whatever, I'm thinking like, okay, if there's anything manual, if I do this thing twice and I'm expected to do it more often, repeatedly, then guess what? That's going to be my first target for automation. We're going to knock that out of the park. We're going to codify whatever we got to codify, script it up, so I'm not sitting here hacking on a keyboard or clicking in a web interface every single time that I got to do it. Which leads me to the next quote that I pulled from chapter 1. And it was, automation is born out of a desire to not do the same things differently, usually for the worse, over and over again. That's what we're trying to avoid. It's like, we don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again, sometimes doing it terribly, differently.
Over and differently each and every time.
Yes, exactly. So
Great
yeah, I
quotes
appreciated
there
that.
throughout.
Yeah, that they call those out. Yeah, nuggets. I was like, I read that and it's like, oh, you hit me like
You
close to
felt it.
home
You
right here,
felt it,
man.
didn't you?
Yes, yes, indeed. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Nice.
Um, yeah, and so that was all the more that I have for chapter 1, and then he gets into chapter 2, like right into Python and like some of the
Yes.
basics of Python. Um,
Well, he talks about the what is it? Oh, gosh, the something of Zen.
the
It's
Zen of Python,
oh yeah, the Zen of
yeah,
Python, and
by Tim
it is
Peters.
it is a very it's like a poem of sorts, and it's actually
Yes.
in the book where beautiful is better than ugly, explicit is better than implicit, simple is better than complex, complex is better than complicated, flat is better than nested, sparse is better than dense, readability counts. Special cases aren't special enough to break the rules. Although practicality beats purity, errors should never pass silently unless explicitly silenced.
Hmm.
In the face of ambiguity, refuse the temptation to guess. There should be one and preferably only one obvious way to do it, although that way may not be obvious at first unless you're Dutch. Shout out to all our Dutch listeners. I know y'all might be
Right.
out there at now or sometime in the future. Shout out. Now is better than never, although never is often better than right now. If the implementation is hard to explain, it's a bad idea. Okay. And last but not least, if the implementation is easy to explain, it may be a good idea. Namespaces are hunking great ideas. Let's do more of them. So yes, that's it. You can actually run it and see it yourself. If you don't have a copy of the book, you have Python installed on your system, go ahead and kick off the REPL and literally type import this and it'll print out to the screen. So um Python is a really beautiful, easy, readable, approachable language, and I think this poem kind of outlines its high points.
I completely agree. Thank you for the recitation of the Zen of Python. I really do appreciate that.
I didn't realize
Um,
it was so long, and like it read quick, but when you say it, it just takes very
yeah,
long to get out of your
yeah, it takes a second. And I didn't know you could get that by just running import
yeah,
this. Like you start up a Python interpreter and you run import this and it gives you the Zen of Python.
yep,
I thought that was pretty cool because no matter where you are, whatever system you're running, you can get that by just running, those two simple. Well, hey, and it's very simple is better than complex, right? How do I
hello,
get this in a Python? Just run import this and you'll get it. And talking about simple is better than complex. Right now, my camera is not doing what it's supposed to do,
I
but you
see
know
that.
what? Yeah, I'm just a little icon that's like reflecting as I speak on the
Yeah,
screen, which is fine. So we're gonna work through this and keep it pushing. As long as
we'll
y'all can
figure it
hear
out.
me, I can
Yeah,
see y'all. I can see y'all checking in.
yes.
I can see
Hey,
the comments. I
Sterling.
can see the people joining. Yes, indeed. Uh, appreciate you joining. So yeah, we're just gonna work through my camera technical difficulties as long as the audio is giving us what we need.
There you go. There you go. So, if can we since we're talking about Python, did you read the quote from Batman? Since we're talking about quotes.
No, I did
It's
not read the quote from Batman.
yes, it's right at the beginning of chapter 2 and it
Okay.
says, would you like to do the oh, you didn't see it. Oh, let me do the
No, yeah,
honor
I probably
section.
overlooked it. Yeah, yeah. Please,
So this
please do.
I would love to. Language is the key to world peace. If we all spoke each other's language, excuse me, tongues, perhaps the scourge of war would be ended forever. Right? How about
Nice.
that?
Yeah.
If we all spoke the same language. So basically to me, Python is that love language. It's the one that anyone who's interested can learn. It's very approachable and it was built on the principles of being simple to code. So again,
Yeah.
shout out to the creators of Python. I think you did something pretty awesome there. And the fact that it can do a lot of different things. It's not, it's programming, sure, it's scripting, sure. It can be front end and back end, sure. It has
Yeah.
frameworks that allow you to do quite a bit. So it's a very versatile programming language for sure.
Well, yeah, and that was one of the other things that I picked up from this chapter was their mention of the Python standard library and how it has all of these different features and functions and just like capabilities built into the language itself. So
Yep.
you don't have to. I mean, there are going to be cases where you have to pull in these what I'll call a third party library just because it's not native to the application. But there is a lot that you can do with native Python. You just call these libraries that are built in. You don't have to pip install anything, and you can do a lot. And I think that was one of the things that they kind of stress on. People turn to Python because it's already got all this stuff sort of built in like a Swiss Army knife.
That was the phrase they used.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's see. Any more gems? Of course, this is where it
Okay.
starts talking about, and he's back.
I am back on screen. Thank God.
Okay. Your little circle was doing its job for a while,
I
but
know. I
we
know.
like we wanted you back anyway. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was the poem. I like the fact that it is always this very simple, very readable. You don't even have to understand.
Mhm.
You don't have to understand Python inherently to see what it's doing, right?
Yep.
It's almost in plain English. And they gave a couple of examples of a script in here where if you just read it out loud, you really do get a grasp for what it's
Mhm.
doing. There's not a lot of complexity, and I guess that's the beauty of it. And what Python offers DevOps is the ability to be involved, the ability to be
Mhm.
flexible. Pick your tool. And for some folks, Python is the perfect tool, but when we get into a later conversation, I think Mike mentioned it in the pre-show. It has its limits, and we'll
Yep.
talk about those. So it's always think about it. Even in your job right now, there's probably a million ways to do something. There's probably one very good way, and the Zen of Python talked about it. Do the most practical way. Not
Mhm.
just because, but do it because it is simplistically beautiful, and you don't have to do a lot of bells and whistles to make it work for you. So we're gonna come back to that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything on
Yes,
chapter
indeed.
2? What are you thinking here?
Let's see. The one demo that they had from chapter 2 was stopping EC2 servers using a Lambda function.
Yes.
Um, and I did have some thoughts about that. I thought that was a good start because I mean, right out of the gate, he's getting you to the cloud. He's getting you off your local system
How about
into
that?
the cloud. And hey, Lambda functions, we love them. Shout out to season 2, programming AWS Lambda. Um, and so I thought that was a very interesting sort of bridge from what we learned before to what we're reading now. I did have some thoughts and some notes for the author though.
Please.
I hate that the script had a hard-coded instance ID. So that script, as you run it, could only shut down one specific instance. And I would rather that the script had used a tag for an environment or an application or something like that. Or I mean, something that could just like give it a little bit more capability than just like, okay, start or stop this one instance on a schedule. And he used an event bridge to run it on a schedule to start and stop the instance. Um, it's a good example, but I think he could have taken it further. But again, you don't have all day when you're writing or reading these books to cover all the bases. I just wanted to share, like, hey, it would have been cool if the script could have done that. Also, in the role, the IAM role that he gave the function, it was like, hey, we're just going to allow it to start or stop all EC2 instances in the account. But it was key to a very specific instance ID. But at the same time, it's not good practice to give access to everything in your account to different resources that can do stuff in your account. So it might have been overkill. I will concede to that, but it would have been cool if he said, hey, this function limits this this IAM role limits this function's ability to only start or stop instances with a specific tag on it, or something like that. I
And
thought
that's
that
more
would have been cool.
realistic too.
It is.
It is definitely more realistic. This scenario of shut down all the systems sounds like a good idea in, say, a lab account or a test
Hmm.
account where you don't want to pay that bill for systems when everyone's off the clock at 5 or 6 p.m. So for that scenario, it works perfectly. You're going to get all the
Yep.
systems shut down. And if you're not tying it to a specific instance ID, but if you were being more holistic and saying if the state is running, go ahead and bang
Hmm.
those servers. So
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah, and I did have a testimony on that too. Filtering on tags is very important. You got to be careful. Um, I learned that the hard way, and if I've shared it before, if you heard my story before, apologies because I'm going to tell you again. I think it's worth hearing. Um, I was trying to write no less a Python script that would shut down servers that were in a funky state, but my filtering was off. So my script worked. I shut down every single EC2 instance, numbering in the hundreds, in a production AWS account. So we're instantly like, my team is like, "Hey, did something just happen?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, let me check my, let me go back and check my code real quick." So sure enough, I had stopped every single server because I had missed some part of my filter was incorrect.
Mm.
So fortunately, I also had a script that would turn servers on. And since my filter was broken anyway, hey, let me just run this script and I'll just bring everything back up. So we had a minor outage for some production systems, which is kind of a bummer that way. But yeah, we got past it. I learned my lesson, and everything was good. We got Tech Coach Ralph
Yep. I
in
was
the
reading
building.
that.
Yeah. And yes, at least I did not terminate the instances. Yes, the whole point was to stop them.
Right.
Terminating them, that would have been a very, very bad day.
Oh
But
gosh,
I would
yes.
have learned a lot from it. So
But it sounds like you learned from this incident as well.
yes,
It wasn't the
yes,
catastrophic incident that it could have been. Although shutting down hundreds of production servers is a terrible, terrible thing. But
it's not
it's
a good
that
idea.
teachable moment. We
Yeah.
have all had those oops issues, those F ups. And
Yes.
if you haven't, trust me, grasshopper, you will.
Hmm.
You've been
Yes,
doing this long enough,
indeed.
you're gonna mess up something, but you always learn from it. So there it is.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And there was one other demo in this chapter, pulling Docker images. I thought that was kind of neat. If you're doing something, on your system, you got a little project that you're working with some Docker images, you want to pull them or something. I could see that being useful, something to know.
Yes, I kind of skipped that one. I've read it, but I
Okay.
didn't try to do it. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Neither did I. Yeah.
So this chapter wraps up talking about of a lot of the DevOps tasks that Python can facilitate. And I
Hmm.
think this book is going to give you more and more examples as we go on. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, make sure if you can read along. We would love to have people giving their opinions about some of the examples if they work through them. Definitely. There is a repo for this code on GitHub. Darn, you're good. Just popped up on the screen. For sure,
Yeah.
if you're interested in, kind of following along, you know what we're talking about, definitely take a look at the repo and we'll be addressing a lot of the activities and a lot of the scripts. Different, I mean, it's a doing even in chapter 3, it gets a little fresh because it moves away
Yeah.
from Python uh indirectly and you're using Jupyter notebooks. So
Yeah.
or Cololab notebooks. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So what
indeed. I appreciated the fact that they had code, code out of the box. The repo was pretty fresh. I mean, the code's about a year old.
That's
A
not
book
bad.
pretty new. Yeah, not bad at all. And I didn't have to modify any code for the few examples that I worked. I had to change my environment a little bit, but the code I didn't have any problems with it. So shout out to the authors for that, to just allowing us to run some code that actually works out of the box.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we want to move on about to chapter 3? Does anyone have any
Yeah.
feedback? If you're listening or you're on our live. It seems to be quite a few people watching. So if you have
Yeah,
any
yeah,
opinions about anything we're talking about, go ahead and put them in the chat. Make
yeah.
this more
Bring it.
interactive if you don't mind.
No doubt. And so while we're hanging for the comments, I will get to my demo. There were a couple demos in here, like you mentioned. The first one, he used the Hugging Face. Well, he broke it down into two categories, I guess: consuming and providing APIs, and then networking. And under consuming and providing APIs, he had two demos. One using the Hugging Face API to generate an image in Google Colab, and another one using a Flask-based API on Replit that takes two numbers as input and then returns the sum. Under the networking part, he had a demo also using Google Colab that it plots the packet sizes for network traffic, and then another one where it generates a routing table for your device. Interestingly enough, the packet size demo also did a routing table. So fortunately, I happen to have that particular demo ready to go,
Oh,
so
good.
I will show it. We did get one comment from Tech Coach Ralph saying, "I think you all are awesome." And you know
Oh,
what? That's big coming from Tech Coach Ralph. And I'll say it again. I've said it previously in other episodes. If you're not following Tech Coach Ralph, you're
you better
missing
be.
out on gems. Just like not my man is in the studio. He got to be in the studio every single day, just dropping knowledge for
Really?
people to come and get. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So I try to keep up with my man, but let me tell you, you got to follow him on YouTube. Catch up with that boy. He's for real. He's for real. No doubt. Okay.
Subscribed.
Okay. See, there you go.
Oh, this and I'm just looking through some of his latest videos,
Yeah.
some of his shorts. Okay.
Yeah. I
Can't
tell you,
wait. I
he's
can't
the
wait.
business. Yeah. Serious business. Okay. Getting into this particular demo. Let's see, where am I? This was the Matplotlib demo. So you do have to install some libraries for this one, Scapy and Matplotlib, and pull in some functions from the Scapy library, IP, ICPM, traceroute, and this is all the functionality that the script is going to use to determine the packet size and then plot out the packet sizes as it charts them. Let's see, it start. Oh, and you also define the sites that you want to target. So it's targeting Bing, Google, and DuckDuckGo, some search engines that are publicly available. And then it starts to ping them to get some different packets going back and forth between my local system, because I did end up running this locally, not on Google Colab. And then it starts to plot. I'm going to go to a different plot because this one's kind of hard to see. This is a better graph here of just showing the packet size over time. So, I mean, another cool capability of Python, we can pull in these libraries and do your graphing directly in the code, as opposed to, say, like exporting the data, then having to import it into Excel or, numbers or whatever your preferred spreadsheet program is. And you get it all right there, particularly in the notebook interface. And then, as I mentioned, this script also does a trace route, so you can kind of see the IP table for your particular system, or rather the routing table for your system.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's my little demo, my following along from chapter 3.
Interesting. Well, yes, I did mine in Colab, so same responses, but
yeah,
it's an opportunity to. There's many ways to. How do you skin a cat? I'm not skinning a cat, but there's several ways to do something. And yeah, I found for him, he did it locally. I probably should have did the same thing because of the limitations that existed inside of and again, this is a year old. The code's about a year old, and I found some small differences, but nothing terribly earth shattering. So don't let it persuade you one way or the other. Definitely go to the repo and check it out for yourself if you want to see some of the stuff that we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the book. so you can follow along. And yeah, instead of rewriting it, use what's there and see how it works, and see how this tooling can be of use to you somewhere, maybe in your job as
Yeah.
well. Okay, what was
Yes,
that? What
indeed.
chapter? I'm sorry, I'm losing
That was
track.
chapter 3.
Oh,
No,
okay,
it's all good.
okay.
Yeah.
Any gems or takeaways from that chapter? What do you think?
Um, yeah, I mean, I just like the capability of I mean, just being able to come out of the gate with Python in a lot of different places. So I think one of the examples that he kind of showed was like Hugging Face API, and how
Mhm.
you can just easily get information from external sources into your code, and then
Yep.
the Flash-based API on Replit, different platform, and then you're sending information. I mean, simple sort of application. I think it just added 2 numbers. But if you're a new developer, or if you're new to
To DevOps.
coding, or DevOps, preparing solutions for others, I appreciated the way he's introducing different platforms very quickly, because
Yes.
that's kind of like the real world. Like we're in one chapter, and he touched Google Colab, he touched Replit, then he was talking about networking, he's talking about route tables and packet sizes. So sometimes you're going to be drinking from a fire hose in real life. And I appreciated that he offered that in just like a single chapter of this book, where if you're following along to really get the most out of this material, then you're going to have to like keep up. You're like,
Yes.
I'm sure I didn't know networking. So let me, like, what's a route table? So let me, look that up. What's a packet? So you might have to do some additional study just to keep up with the material that you wanted to get into, to extend your skills as a developer, as an ops person, as an admin, whatever your role you're coming to this book from. So yeah, I just kind of like the way that he was like kind of threw you into the deep end and said, let's swim.
It sounds familiar. My mom did
Right.
that. That's how I learned how to swim. And look at me now.
Look at you now.
I
Yeah,
haven't met a cliff that I wouldn't jump off of. So thanks, Mom. Thank you.
there you go. Shout out to moms.
Just jump right in. Don't even worry about it. You'll figure it out. So yeah, that
Indeed.
was definitely chapter 3. And let's talk about chapter
Yeah,
4.
let's jump into chapter 4, provisioning resources. Out of the box, I like that he was like, uh, well, he introduced the concept of a software development kit, and particularly
Mhm.
for cloud platforms. And he's like, all of the cloud platforms, they have SDKs that go with Java, JavaScript, Go, Ruby, whatever. But why choose Python? And I pulled another quote from the book. He says, Python is the exact balance between loose and structured that is necessary to pull off a lot of DevOps principles. And I mean, that really makes sense, because like there's some strictness to Python. Like you got to get your indentation right. If your for loops and your if statements aren't lined up properly, your code's going to break. But if you're working with some interface and it gives you integer when you expected a string, you know what? Python's going to be like, it's all good. I'm gonna let that integer
Eh,
slide. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you don't know what a function is going to return. Hopefully, you have a little bit more insight. But there may be cases where you have to work with data in certain ways where you need to let some of the strictness kind of slide. Whereas these other more strongly typed languages, they're going to hold you to it. They're going to be like, no, you asked for an integer, son. We got a string. I don't know what to do with this, and it's gonna panic. So I thought that was interesting that the author mentioned that looseness with some structure at the same time.
nice. A lot of gems.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's quotes at the beginning of each chapter.
Yes,
And
there
there
are.
might be some inside the chapter too, but he always starts it off with some sort of gem to set the scene for what this chapter is. And then for chapter 4, there's a quote by a famous architect. Life is chaotic, dangerous, and surprising. Buildings should reflect that.
Hmm.
Buildings, right? So it it's all of those things, right? And Python is definitely all of those things. It can
Yeah.
let me, oh, I see we have a quote here.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
From
So that is the beauty if we can call it beauty, it is one language that goes across so many different disciplines, right? You know, if
Mm,
you're a cybersecurity person and you're dealing with Python, you're writing scripts or whatever to do something very particular. And then the DevOps person, if you're this is your job, you're a problem solver. You're constantly finding ways to improve your environment, to keep things up, to, again, like Mike said, you know, you don't want to do things manually. You're going to find a way to repeat it if you have to do it more than twice. And then data science. This is a whole discipline wrapped
mhm.
around this one language. And it is definitely not the only language, but it's definitely one of the more popular because, again, it has a really nice on ramp. And it's yes, you couldn't have said it any better. It is very easy to get started with. So
Yep.
it's approachable. Like, how can you not appreciate a programming language that is approachable, right?
Mhm.
So kudos and shout out to
Yep.
everyone who appreciates that about Python, who wants to go deeper, who, is a Pythonista like our friend Mike here. Yeah, shout out to y'all because you picked a good one.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do have some notes though. Out of
Notes.
all of that,
Let's see what we got.
all the accolades that we can give to Python in this
Yes.
particular chapter, it was the focus was on provisioning resources, particularly in a cloud environment.
And
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 the demos that he had were creating an EC2 instance using Python's Boto 3 library,
mhm.
scaling and auto scaling, managing Docker, and managing Kubernetes. I got thoughts and notes on all of
Ooh,
these. So I'm going to hog the
ooh.
mic for a minute,
No,
but
no,
please
no.
interrupt me at any point if I get off track.
No, you got
Okay,
this. You have strong thoughts, and I want to hear them because I can
I
hear it in the
do.
tone. I hear your tone. I see where this is going. I'm just gonna sit back.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with the first demo, creating EC2 instance with Python's Boto 3 library. Um, well, this was kind of what I want to say. It was near and dear to my heart because this is actually one of the ways that I started learning Python back in 2012 was managing AWS resources using Python and the Boto 3 library. That's pretty much how I got started. So I was like, oh, bet, um, he the exercise as he walked it out, it uses a Jupyter notebook on SageMaker, which is it's like a machine learning or
Mhm.
data science service in the AWS platform. I kind of thought that was overkill,
It is. Don't
like
don't overthink it. Next.
yeah, it's like you're trying to show somebody how to run a notebook, and he used Colab before, and I know why he did this because setting up a Jupyter notebook on SageMaker, it gives you access to stuff like you don't have to define your roles for IAM, you don't have to set up other resources and so on. But I think he could have been able to do this in the cloud console, which would have had zero cost and would have been much simpler for the learner, because then you log into AWS, you click the cloud console, you even get a little text editor inside the console where you
Mhm.
can run your script, So I thought that could have been simplified a little bit more. He also used an AMI ID that was hard coded, and I think I mentioned this before, where it's like, come on, let's do something a little bit different with the AMI IDs. In this case, particularly because they're not globally accessible. So if you and I can't recall if there's any indication on the region that he was in where this script was running, but if you happen to be in in that region, everything's good. But if
Right.
you weren't, then you're going to get an error. It's like, hey, this AMI is not available. Then you gotta, as a person who may be new to AWS, you gotta kind of got to figure that out. So that was some notes that I had on
Good
that one.
feedback, though. Very good
Yeah,
feedback.
yeah, and I'm surprised the editors didn't give that to him. It's like, come on, help my man out. He's got some good stuff going. Let's polish it a little bit. Um, the next demo with scaling versus auto scaling, I would not want to do any sort of scaling with a script
Mm-mm.
because that kind of takes you away from the DevOps principles of automating things. Because the first example was like, hey, run the script manually, and he did explain that if you're scaling vertically, you're going to have downtime because you have to stop the instance,
You do.
change the configuration, and run it again, create that instance again, start it or whatever, and scale it up. So he did kind of break that down. And then he went into the auto scaling, where he created an auto scaling group and some instances that were based on the auto scaling, and also how to change the parameters. I thought that okay, that was cool. But in the end, I was like, really, that those types of resource creation, that sort of automation is better handled by infrastructure as code. And there is a section on infrastructure as code in the book. It's one of the later chapters in the book, so we'll get there. And the what I guess let slide, or the way that I kind of got past this, was that and this was definitely the case for me as I was learning how to create resources with Python, because I didn't know IAC back in 2012. I was just doing what everybody else was doing, but by doing that, I learned how the cloud platforms APIs worked, and I knew what the resources were. So when I started using infrastructure as code, everything looked familiar to me because I had already seen it in Python. So the analogy that I used was like creating resources with scripts and then moving to infrastructure as code is kind of like manually calculating the area under a curve and then learning calculus. And it's so much easier when you're doing it, so much more accurate when you do it the calculus way, which is the same thing with infrastructure as code. It makes things so much more beautiful and just like fun to work with code instead of writing scripts and having a managed state and all this other kind of crazy stuff.
So do you think, using you as the example, this book kind of patterns your trajectory in a way where you're doing things with the tools that you have available, but as time goes on, there are other tools that are better candidates for doing what you want to do, right? So I think what he's doing is he's introducing, because Python is the star here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the star. It's one way. Now, because it's a Python book, I think he's championing that we should be using Python. But you said it, or you inferred it. There's always a better tool, especially when you're doing something that's native to a particular cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I think scripting is great, but for like the first example where you went into SageMaker, and it felt like a little bit of overkill. So
Mm-hmm.
I do like the fact that he's introducing multiple ways to do
Yeah.
things, and introducing maybe to the layperson that, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that. So there's a flip side to it where you probably get a little bit of something out of it if you haven't run up against it before. So you're right. Always choose the best tool for the job, but
Yeah.
having Python in your tool belt is not a bad thing.
Yeah, not at all. It's a great way to learn, like I said, the platforms, because it's like you're a little closer to the metal as you're interacting with these things. So you get to see a little bit more of what it takes to actually create a resource. And maybe when you're in that infrastructure as code, you're taking a step back, so you don't get to see as much of the fine-grained details as you would when you're actually, doing artisanal scripts and like, exercising the code directly against some APIs.
Bespoke.
So yeah, exactly. Bespoke solutions for problems that way. The last two examples that he gave in this particular chapter were managing Docker and managing Kubernetes. And I mean, I won't go into details of those examples, but I will just jump right into my thoughts. And that, these demos, they show the underlying ways that you can automate tasks using Python scripts. Like, I think he pulled down some container images, and he created some namespaces. So that's good to learn how to do these things out of the box. But in much more complex environments, you're going to lean on manifests for Kubernetes. You're not going to lean on a Python script, and you're going to use some sort of GitOps solution for, specifically for Kubernetes. You're not going to say, oh, run that script again. Let's, do that. You're going to have a much more mature and what I want to say, like integrated approach to managing these systems, because they have their own interfaces that come with them. So it's good to run the Python scripts to learn how these things work and how you can automate some things, particularly if it's something that you do manually. But there are better tools to interact with Docker, to interact with
For
Kubernetes.
sure. For sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Python's fit for DevOps. Do we agree that it is definitely you mentioned it is a tool to keep in your tool belt, and it's arguably one of the more extensible, approachable languages in the ecosystem. Could another language do it better?
You know, maybe.
Ooh,
Um, I mean,
from a
a
preference.
shout out to Ruby,
Hey,
and I
Ruby.
think, yeah, Ruby is kind of cool when you look at some of the tools that used Ruby as their sort of domain specific language. Right out the bat, I'm thinking of Chef was one.
Mhm.
I think Puppet also
Love it
used
also.
Ruby as the DSL. So I mean, Ruby's got some pretty close ties to DevOps applications as well. Um, I know a lot of DevOps practitioners when they're actually building and shipping solutions to, particularly for other people to use, they like Go because Go is
Yeah.
compiled and you can build it for different platforms from the same code base. No dependencies. You just give them the executable and say run it. So uh, yeah, I would have to lean back to Go and Ruby if Python had a contender, for being like the language of DevOps or something like that.
Cool. Very well said. Is there anything else we want to pull out? I mean, we know it's a great fit for DevOps. There are other languages that can hold that banner as well. You just
Mm.
explained them. Um, are there any trade-offs that you think exist, especially when we're talking about the provisioning of an EC2 instance? And you mentioned one, like the way that it
Mm.
was uh, built out in the example, but do you think that there are trade-offs like using Python versus using another tool, like the debugging of it if something goes wrong, or the security of it and keeping track of the drift? Like, do you foresee that this could be a problem at some point if you're not using maybe another tool for provisioning? Because we just talked about a infrastructure as code, but what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. I think it depends on the use case. Like, and definitely on the application. If you're coming from the developer side, you might want to use Java, because Java is sort of the lingua franca for business applications, instead of a Python. But if you're just like scripting sort of the nuts and bolts of things, I mean, honestly, I might go for Bash before I go for Python if it's just like a quick and dirty, let's get this. One of the quotes that I have from one of my associates in the Blacks in Technology community, and I'm sporting my Blacks in Technology
I
shirt
love
today
it.
for the folks that can see me on the screen. But he said, when you use Bash, something will work today. So it's just like with Bash out of the gate, you're going to get something done.
I love it.
Uh, Python, maybe you got to struggle a little bit. Maybe it takes till tomorrow. I don't know, depending on how complex the problem is. Um, so yeah, I think Python works, covers a lot of bases, a lot of different applications. Um, but yeah, it's just I do know, but again, this comes from 20 plus years of experience, right? That
Mhm.
we know there's almost always a better tool for the task than scripting a bespoke artisanal solution every
Yes.
time, you know. So yeah, you got to look at the problem at hand, maybe think about it, maybe read the Zen of Python one good time,
Yeah.
and know that simple is better than complex, and the simple thing is going to be not to write the script and to go use a tool,
Yeah.
use a provider's solution or something like that. So yeah, there's other options out there.
All right. Well, let's see. I'm looking at the end of chapter 4. It says this chapter sent us on quite a trip in terms of how we use Python. I would definitely agree with that. Um,
No doubt.
but we also learned, about scaling, how much of a hassle that is. So you mentioned that. I think the author mentions that as well. Um, and also the containers are supported by a lot of Python libraries, and they're saying that it can act like the glue filler between Docker and Kubernetes. There may be a place where this is probably the best solution, but it depends on the use case. And you said that
Yeah.
it's always about
Yeah.
what's your use case, and the fact that you can be flexible and decide what tooling works best makes you a better engineer, DevOps engineer, SRE, whatever. It makes you better at your job.
Yeah. It's a great tool to know for sure.
For sure. So, what's ahead of us?
Well, coming up in the next episode from
Okay.
Cover to Code, we will be getting into chapters 5 and 6 of
Okay.
Hands-on Python for DevOps. Chapter 5 is manipulating resources, and chapter 6 is security and DevSecOps with Python. So I hope Tech Coach Ralph, I hope you can come back and join us. Maybe drop some security stuff, some quality assurance stuff. Keep us on track there indeed. And for all of you that have joined us for the live stream, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hope to see y'all next week as well. And thank you, friend, who's ever watching this on the repeat on LinkedIn, YouTube, the podcast player of your choice.
Wherever.
Thank you for checking us out. I know it's good to be back. I mean, we are back in effect. So yeah, catch us for the next episode from Cover to Code for sure. Any closing thoughts, Angela?
No, I'm just glad to be back. I'm always happy to read and learn, and this is a great opportunity. It is out. It is. Thank you. Say up quick goodbye to Tech Coach Ralph. We will enjoy this week the best we can. It is hump day. We are that much closer to the weekend, so amen to that. But this was a great choice. This was a great choice for our season 3, and I'm looking forward to getting through it and learning as we go. So no one better to do it with than you and our folks that are following along. So thank you.
Indeed. All right, we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.